Welcome to the Arizona Wildcats Show, brought to you by Fry's Food Stores. I'm Star Sports Editor Ryan Finley here with Zach Rosenblatt. Zachy, we're breaking down Arizona's offense, defense, and special teams here at the midway point of the 2015 season. The Wildcats are 4-2 overall, 1-2 in Pac-12 play. It's very up and down, especially on defense, and that's what I want to talk about today. The U of A gave up big points and big yards to both Stanford and UCLA in back-to-back weeks, and then came back with what must be the surprise performance of the year in the Pac-12. They only allowed 7 points to Oregon State in last week's win. Going forward, Zach, is this team more like the team we saw against Stanford and UCLA, or is it going to be more like the team we saw against Oregon State?
You'd hope I think it's somewhere in the middle, because there's no way they can hold the Pac-12 to 7 points every week.
Well, yes.
Especially with, there's a lot of talented quarterbacks and offenses that they have. Even Colorado has some really good guys on offense. So I think they're somewhere in the middle. I think if they didn't really lose any guy. I mean, Jamar Allah was banged up last week, but Rich Rod said, he hopes Scooby Wright and Derek Terry back in a couple weeks. I think that if they can survive these next couple of weeks without them, and then they come back, I think they're going to be in as good of shape as they've been all year. Right.
The name of the game for Arizona this year has been injuries. Scooby Wright left, in the second quarter of their season opener with a torn meniscus. First quarter. He got that cleaned up, came back, sprained his right foot, and hasn't played since. Derek Terry has a hip problem that he's been dealing with. Cody Ippolito, who's a linebacker, Hayden Gregory, who's a linebacker. All those guys are getting hurt. You could make the argument right now that their most effective defensive player, based on a small sample size, is a guy, Paul McGlure, who was playing safety a week ago.
At least based off last week, yeah. I mean, he had as good of a debut as you can ask for a guy who never really played linebacker before. They kind of have him in the Tremaine Bondurant role as an undersized guy at outside linebacker, but outside linebacker is kind of a spur, which is what Tremaine played in this 3-3-5 defense. And he was swarming the ball. He's got good athleticism, so I think he'll be a nice weapon to have. It doesn't sound like Terry's going to play again this week, and he's maybe their best pass rusher outside of Scooby Wright. So
right, Arizona's outscored its opponents 254 to 183 total this year, but really those numbers are skewed by Arizona's weak non-conference schedule. They hung a bunch of points on NAU and really limited them. Played very well against Nevada. Pac-12 play has been sort of a different story. I mean, they've been kind of overwhelmed, I think, by UCLA and by Stanford, but you could argue that those are two of the maybe three teams in the league that have a size and skill advantage over Arizona's defense.
Yeah, the way I look at those two games is those two games before the year you look at, in Arizona's, you don't expect them to win those anyway. They went out and didn't win them, and they just did it in spectacular fashion. So I think that's kind of skewed maybe the view of this Arizona team. I think they can bounce back from that. I don't know if it was an aberration, but I don't think they're as bad as they showed in those 2 weeks. So I think we'll get a better idea of what this defense is in the next few weeks.
All right. Big question time, Zach. Drum roll. No drum roll? Okay. Who would you consider Arizona's first half MVP on defense right now? And it's tough because I don't think anybody's played particularly well.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because, you look at Will Parks, he hasn't really made the plays that you particularly want from him outside of that big hit he had last week. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, maybe Jake Matthews, honestly. I mean, he's been their leading tackler at linebacker all season. He's a Tucsonan. He went to Ironwood Ridge. And
does that help?
I'm just pointing that out. But, I mean, there's been a lot of inconsistency on the defense, and he's come in and made tackles when he's had to. So I don't know if they have a one guy that's MVP, but he's probably been their most consistent player.
Right, I agree.
And now he's playing in the middle, so.
I agree. I think that there may not be a first half MVP in my mind. They've had some players kind of flash bright and hot for a little bit. Anthony Fotu has this great tip interception last week. Will Parks has the big hit. Even going back a couple of games, Cam Denson has an interception, but then kind of looks bad. Yeah. I would say that while there's probably not a first half MVP, I think their second half MVP is going to be Devontae Neal. They're going to be facing a lot of pass-heavy teams. I think Devontae Neal, before he got banged up last week, really showed some ability at a new position at cornerback, and they're going to need him to play well, intercept a few passes, and make a few plays if they hope to finish the season on a bright spot.
If Scooby comes back in the next couple of weeks, it could be him as well if he's the same Scooby Wright that we know.
Right. I think 4 games of Scooby might be enough to make him the offensive MVP. or defensive.
Either one.
Either one. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Arizona Wildcats Show, brought to you by Fry's Food Stores. Join us next time when we talk about Arizona's special teams. I promise there's going to be a lot of Casey Scourin talk, which excites Zach.
He's a good guy. I like him.
Yeah. That'll do it for this episode. For Zach Rosenblatt, I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time.
Try this matchup. Low prices and faster checkout. You can count on it at Fry's.